Hey everyone, and welcome to 1.21 Gigawatts. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we talk about movies on this show. And in this episode, we are watching a movie which we actually just saw today, is in the run for a lot of Oscars. Not surprising though, because it was in the run for a lot of other award shows. But we are going to talk about Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Of course, the drama.
Henceforth shall be referred to as Three Billboards.
Yes, because I'm not saying that full thing every time. Three Billboards, fine title.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah, that's all you need, fine title. So we'll start spoiler free, as we typically do, and then we will give you a warning somewhere in the middle before we dive into spoilers. So, Three Billboards, if you have not seen the trailer does a pretty good job of setting up what the movie is. But it's this woman, played of course by Frances McDormand, and her daughter was raped and killed 6 months ago before the movie started, and she feels that the local police are not doing enough to solve the case, so she hires or rents 3 billboards that are in the outskirts of the town, and puts up basically messages saying, hey, why is this case not solved? This Chief Willoughby, he's an asshole. Like, it basically, I can't remember the exact phrasing, but it was like, you know, why no arrests? And then, you know, it was like obviously it's 3 billboards, so they kind of fall down from each other.
The last one is definitely calling the chief out by name, going, hey, why are you doing this?
And that's the thing. And then you have Sam Rockwell, who plays like a police officer under Chief Willoughby. Chief Willoughby, of course, played by Woody Harrelson, so you've got a bit of a cast here throughout. And he is a bit of an asshole. He's definitely racist. He's definitely violent. He has a temper. He's
extremely homophobic.
He's extremely homophobic, and there's all these things going on. And he's kind of almost the antagonist to Frances McDormand's character Mildred, and that's the thing. And it's kind of like, what's the fallout of these billboards? Like, how does that affect the town? They want to take them down. The character who sort of rents them out, who works at the local like office in town, which is across the street from the police station, which was a nice little touch. I thought is like they could kind of look through out the window and see them across. Yeah, from each other. They
do play with it a few times. I've seen them. Yeah. At first, it's just like, okay, it's across the street. That's fine, but it plays nicely.
I think it helps give it that small town vibe, because it's like, I mean, sure, it could be on like the other 1 or 2 streets in this small town centre.
Yeah, but it's literally just across the road.
So it just tells you right there, no, this is a small town. It's not that big. Everyone knows who the chief is. Everyone knows what's happened. Everyone's involved in it. So so that's kind of the setup, and it's all kind of the drama that falls out from that. But it does also have a dark sense of humour. It's kind of despite all the serious subjects that it's using, and it's more serious than what's even implied from the plot. Because obviously, okay, so this teenage girl was raped and killed. That's already pretty dark and serious. But a lot of the themes that it's playing with, racism, sexism, homophobia, all these things are in here. And despite all those things being in there, it's also it uses humour a lot and shifts between tones. And we'll talk about how
it manages to be extremely funny, and not just shifting tones to be funny. It's funny while it's talking about those other things.
Yeah. So I'll ask the question, Car, did you enjoy Three Billboards?
Yeah, I liked this a lot.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed it as well. I think it's getting a lot of praise for a lot of obvious reasons. There's a lot of obviously the cast are the first thing that everyone's talking about. You know, I always like Sam Rockwell. He's great in everything. Frances McDormand, people know her. I think in terms of good roles, they think of the Coen Brothers movies first. They think of Fargo, think of stuff like that. But you've got this cast who are great from top to bottom. Woody Harrelson is an actor who, of course, when he was up and coming and he was on Cheers, everyone thought of him as the idiot from Cheers. Like, but you know, over time he's sort of again grown into like this actor who's very diverse and does a lot of roles. And
yeah, because some people sometimes you'll see him go, oh no, he's kind of the goofball. Even now he'll still play a lot of roles like that, and then other times he'll do very serious roles.
Yeah, he'll do Zombieland, but then he'll go do No Country for Old Men. Like he flip flops.
He's very versatile.
So yeah, and I think it is actually very impressive how it handles its subjects, whilst also bouncing around different tones, and you know, taking these serious subjects, but also being funny while it does it, and then having a really dramatic moment, and then making a little laugh out of it afterwards. And it's a very natural kind of way where it feels like this is how some people do cope with these situations, is they try and bring humour out of these moments, so that it isn't just depressing and dire, and they're constantly miserable about life.
Like, there are moments where You know, like they're full on joking about something. You know, they're kind of taunting each other, and then something will happen, and it will like, okay, no, we're serious now. Just in an instant, everything shifts.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning. I think this is a movie where there isn't actually there's not a single character who's completely good. Everyone is flawed.
Yeah,
Everyone. Everyone has issues. I mean, you sympathise with Mildred McDormand's character, at least at first, because it's her daughter that's had this happen to her. But over the course of the movie, it makes it very clear that she is also flawed. She also has opinions. She also performs actions that tell us that no, she is not a completely all there individual. She has demons in the closet, and there's not a clear good guy throughout a lot of it.
Yeah, I think the closest is probably Red, the advertising agency man.
Yeah, who it's funny actually because the actor who's played him, Caleb Landry Jones, it was in both Get Out and he was in the recent season of Twin Peaks, and he was a complete shithead in both of those. He was Shitty Steve in Twin Peaks. If you,
Oh yeah, I reckon with that. I didn't know he was a shithead in Get Out because obviously I've not seen that yet.
He's
coming up soon.
He could play like the twin brother of his character in Twin Peaks and Get Out. It's basically what it is.
Okay.
He may not be called Steve, but he's still Shitty Steve in that movie. Oh, of course, I saw that at the start of the year, so that was before Twin Peaks.
So Shitty Steve was his twin.
Yeah. So yeah, but he does actually end up being quite sympathetic. I feel like Mildred's son is relatively sympathetic, but I think that's just by the byproduct of that he's not as around as much to get the development. He's almost one of the victims of the unsympathetic core cast. Same with Peter Dinklage. He seems like an okay dude, but he's kind of there to show how other people treat him rather than he's there to have his own.
Yeah, they're there to show. Yeah, these people are kind of dicks, aren't they?
Yeah, they're awful.
Even the nicer ones are still kind of dicks.
Yeah, they're all flawed, and they all. It's a very believable sort of like levels of flawed, kind of as well. Like it's like even when one of them's trying to do something good, it's like but there's these wrong reasons, or they're going about it the wrong way.
It is, and on the opposite side of that, even when they're doing quite extreme actions, it still feels like it's in that believable realm for this character.
I don't necessarily agree it's the best course of action, but I understand why the character's making that choice.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, strong characters, deep characters is definitely the thing the movie's got going for it. I mean, the direction is good, but it's the direction of the actors that more than anything. More than fancy shots. Not that there's not some nice cinematography in there, because there is, but
that's the script and the actors bringing that to life.
Yeah, this is a movie that entirely hinges on its characters and caring about what they're going through and the way they play off of each other, and it makes for some nice moments. Because there's one of the big sort of moments in the middle of the movie is a oneer where we follow a character across the street, go up into a room, and then come back down. It's all one shot, and it's all very impressive. It's very technically really, I think it was the one time the movie went, oh, this is a nice moment. Just from a technical point of view, I was like, oh, this is all one shot. I'm liking this. And I like that because that moment is very much a character making a bad choice and letting their temper get the better of them. And I like that it all takes place in one shot because it's showing you just how quickly this happens, and it's not until it cuts where maybe the character themselves kind of considers, oh, maybe I overreacted there, or maybe I went over a line for a split second, because the shot actually ends on kind of the new authority figure coming in who might have a problem with what he just did. So that's like a big thing in the movie, and you've got that. So it's an interesting film. There's little bits of controversy that have came from it as well, which I think could be an interesting discussion as well when we get to spoilers, based on what the controversy is. I think it has some surprising turns, not necessarily twists, but where the plot doesn't necessarily go where you think it would. I think first and foremost, I feel like I was expecting it to focus a lot more on who killed the girl.
Yeah, it early on it kind of suggests, okay, no, she's prodding the police into getting answers, and it feels like we're going to go down that route.
Yeah,
and it kind of goes elsewhere.
Yeah, it becomes more about the effect this has on everyone and how everyone's coping with it. It's not got a similar tone or anything like that, but it almost makes me think of The Leftovers, where it's not about the incident itself, it's about how everyone's dealing with it afterwards.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's driven by its characters rather than its plot.
Yeah, and that's good. And I think obviously the ending's downbeat and very ambiguous. I think there's a discussion to have there. But yeah, so no, I think it's a very strong drama with a lot of comedy in there.
It's a lot funnier than I expected when I went in, because obviously there's moments of humor in the trailer.
Yeah, mostly coming from Frances McDormand, like shouting and swearing at people.
Yes, she does that a lot.
Yeah, her being her. Yeah, that's basically the thing. And this comes, of course, the director of In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths. In Bruges is probably a good movie, but it was so hyped up for me that when I watched it, I felt let down. Seven Psychopaths. I've not
seen either.
Seven Psychopaths I quite enjoyed. That was definitely veering more into the comedy, and Sam Rockwell is in that, so clearly he likes working with certain actors. But I enjoyed Seven Psychopaths quite a bit. So I think that's worth mentioning. Also, Clark Peters was in this. He was Freeman on The Wire. It's funny, he was in The Deuce in a small role this year, and someone pointed out in the comments, and I didn't recognise him in the show. And then, but once he said that, I was like, oh yeah, I can kind of see that it's him now, because he had like different hair and he was all whatever. But in this, when I saw him, it was like, no, he's a cop again. He looks like he was in The Wire. That's him. That's Freeman. I don't care what his character's name is. He is Freeman. Thank you very much. Even just the way he comes in and he's like, trying to take over, because he's like the cop who comes in later on and tries to like shape the department up,
diffuse the situations a little bit.
So you got big actors, you got small actors. Another small role, and this one was funny because I was like, who the hell is this? Basically, Frances McDormand's character is divorced. Her husband, John Hawkes as well, who's playing her husband, very good actor as well, in a fairly small role. He's dating like a 19-year-old. He's like having this midlife crisis where it always impresses me how many 19-year-old girls in like movies like seem to want to date middle-aged men, but it's a thing. It must be the money. Middle-aged men tend to have more money than college boys. I guess
or the reality is, it's okay. There's a lot of middle-aged men directing and making these movies, and it's a fantasy that they're kind of just slipping in.
Sure. To be fair though, they always portray it like they're having a breakdown and they shouldn't be doing it. So maybe not. But his girlfriend, I'm like, I know her face. What was she in recently? She was in The Babysitter, which was a Netflix movie. Came out in October, which was good fun. But that was where I knew her from. So yeah, impressive cast. Really, really confident handle of its themes and its tones and everything else that's going on. So with that said, I think we'll get into spoilers so we can start talking about...
I just talk about the music real quickly.
Oh, yeah.
I think it has an incredible score, honestly. I think it's in my... At the moment, it's in my top, 3 to 5 for the year. And it's for, Frances McDormand's obviously, did a lot of Coen Brothers things. I feel like this film kind of does a similar tonal thing to theirs, with the balance.
Especially when she's getting angry and she's like...
Yeah.
And
it's Carter Burwell who does the score here, who does a lot of the Coen Brothers movies. So just another link in there that in my mind when I'm watching it, I'm going, yeah, okay, that's there.
I feel like the source music stood out to me a bit more. The sort of country tracks and stuff, because I felt like there was a few of those, and they played at kind of prominent points, both at the start and the end, and then a couple of places in the middle.
Oh, that's fair.
But so spoilers. Let's get the spoilers in. So full spoilers for Three Billboards. So what I kind of like about the movie in terms of its themes, in terms of what it's doing, is that ultimately by the end of the movie we don't have a killer, right? We've not caught someone. We think we've maybe got the right guy at some point. And it was kind of the ending that really sold to me like this is not about like finding the solution. It's more about the fact that these people have to keep living with what's happened, and like it's them dealing with it.
It's not about getting answers. It's about, what do we do now?
Yeah. And it's about flawed people trying to get answers. And yeah, maybe there's some improvement. Obviously, Sam Rockwell's character Dixon, he's this complete scumbag. And by the end of the movie, there is some redemption, but not a lot of redemption. I mean, his character is actually where some of the controversy comes from with the film. Is some people have a problem, because it's heavily like stated early on that he not only is he racist, homophobic, and everything else, that he actually tortured a black prisoner, who may or may not have even been guilty. Not if he is guilty, he should be doing it anyway. But like That's a plot point that's brought up early on, and it's referenced a few times. And there's some, jokes about, not that specifically, but there's jokes. At one point, Woody Harrelson has this line where, "Hey, if we got rid of all the racist cops, then we'd have like 3 left, and they'd all be homophobic."
Yeah, exactly.
And that was the thing. But except he uses harsher language, might I point out. Like everyone does. Like almost every character in this movie, when they refer to Peter Dinklage, they use words that we're not supposed to be using for little people.
Yeah, I feel like this is something that it's set in the South. It's very much, okay, that's the idea of what it's like there.
Yeah.
So they've kind of gone, that feels more authentic than just, avoiding it.
Oh, absolutely, that's what they're going for. And it's part of what I'm talking about, where a lot of these characters aren't necessarily the greatest people. They all have flaws. They all have biases. Yeah. They all have these opinions. And even when there's a couple of cracks made to Dixon's character, where someone... Because at one point he, threatens Welby, and he's like, "I thought you only beat up black folk." And it's like this sort of dig at him, and then later on when he beats him up, he's like, "Yeah, see, I've got problems with white folk too." And it's like, it's poking at these things, but it's... So where the controversy comes from is that he kind of has a almost... I wouldn't say it's an outright redemption, but he has this growth later on where you do kind of start to feel sorry for him because he does some things to try and help with the case, because he starts to feel bad that the killer's not been found, and he tries to get involved and do so, even though at this point in the movie he's been fired. He's not a cop. As he should be fired, he went across the street and threw someone out of a window. We'll talk about that scene.
Oh yes, we will.
That was the one that I was referring to.
Yeah.
But some people have a problem with, okay, so Selby's a racist, but at the end he's got this sort of redemption to a point where at the end you don't look at him as an outright villain. But some people have a problem with, oh, well, we set up that he's a racist and that he's been racist as a police officer, but there's never, all of his redemptive qualities don't come from anything that have anything to do with any of those subjects. They're about other things. He's helping Mildred's case rather than anything else, and we see how awful it is with his mother, and how his mother's basically just this character from It's Always Sunny. Can I just say that right now?
That actress, she is the master of, angry woman sitting in a chair.
Yeah. And I think I actually read a really interesting article. Someone wrote a piece on this, the people who've got these complaints, right? And it was a very interesting article, sort of imagining if the movie had been recast with a black actress as Mildred, right? And how that would change everything, and how the subtext that if it was there would be completely different, because you'd be like, okay, so maybe the implication would then be that they're not looking for the killer because they don't care as much because of who the victim was, because it'd be her black daughter, and those ideas, and that's not there. And obviously, I think the cynical answer is well, it's Hollywood casts a lot of white actors. That's why most of the main characters are all white. That's just the cynical truth of the matter. But it would change the subtext. I think
it would be a completely different movie though at that point.
It would be a completely different movie, and I think. And I'm not necessarily saying this is the right approach to take, but I think with the way the movie makes it work is that it's saying that he's awful for a lot of reasons, and the awful stuff that we really see him do in the movie isn't necessarily related to that subject. It's set up that that's who he is in the past. It's set up that that's who the character is, and he has a lot of demons. He has a lot of anger issues. He's angry. It's heavily implied that he is gay, and that's why he's so homophobic.
Yeah,
that's definitely an implication in there, and he's got all this anger. And ultimately, when he gets the letter, because obviously Chief Willoughby, played by Woody Harrelson's got cancer and he dies. It's a very dramatic scene. He kills himself because he doesn't want. He wants to go on his terms before he gets sick and dies. And he has this final day with his family where everyone's happy. Has sex with his wife, has a nice day with his kids at the lake, and there's all this happiness. And he kills himself, and everyone's upset about it. But he leaves a letter for Dixon. And when Dixon reads it later on, and it's this thing you could be a good cop. There's a good person in there. I see it, but you've got all this anger. You've got all these problems. You have to let this go away, because I know you want to be a detective, and you have to let this go.
Yeah, and he goes, hey, detectives, they have to, think.
Yeah, they have to think. Yeah, not just react and fly off the handle. Yeah, and we see him do that in a very unconventional way when we get to kind of what he does in the bar. But I think what works about it for me is that it's kind of this idea. This is just the start of his redemption, and he's got a lot of things to atone for, and this is just kind of the first step, because it's the thing that's right in front of him that he can do something about. There's a thing at the end where even at the end, both him and Mildred are flawed, and given what they're going off to maybe do, they're clearly not right. They're not healthy people.
Yeah.
Neither of them are. They're unhealthy in different ways, and I think the it is an interesting question. Like, can you redeem someone who is racist without having the redemption involve someone of color? Can you do that? Does that work? And I'm not saying that that's the movie's goal, so therefore it's failed in that. But it's maybe an interesting question to ponder: is can they become a better person without ever actually showing them interact with that type of plot later on? But it's not necessarily the focus of the movie per se. It's just that he is a extremely flawed individual in a lot of ways.
Yes, I'd say he's better at the end than he is at the start. That is undeniable.
Yeah, but he's not a hero by any means.
Absolutely
but
not.
This is the interesting thing of the movie for me, though, is that by the end of the movie, neither's Mildred. By the end of the movie, I think she's almost just as broken as he is.
Oh yeah, and she starts off in a much better place, of course.
Yeah, because you just assume that, okay, she's the mother, she's the hero almost, essentially, of the movie. You want to root for her. But there becomes a point when she's throwing firebombs at the police station where you're like, you know what, I don't know if I can root for her anymore.
That's the thing. It's like she takes the moment, she phones the police station to check that there's no one in there, going, oh, well, they'll answer the phone.
And obviously they set up earlier on that Sam Rockwell sometimes listens to music, so he's got headphones in. And it's actually, at this point, he's reading the letter, so the station's on fire behind him. But if I'm going to be nitpicky here, I don't know if I buy, because by the time he actually, like, gets the window gets smashed,
think he'd smell it. Yeah,
smell it or just feel the heat, like, because by the time he turns around and he sees it, it's like a wall of flames.
It is. I just love how oblivious he is, though. Like, just that plays to it.
It plays thematically that he's so oblivious. He's not thinking about the world around him. He's not doing these things.
This is why I think part of this works for me. You know, you said, oh, he doesn't do it. He doesn't interact with people of color. He doesn't do anything else. He's solely focused on this one case. Because he's still oblivious. That's still who he is. He hasn't widened that yet. This is what was in front of him. This is what literally falls into his lap at one point. And just, you know, that he's just sat in the bar and it's like, oh, hang on, here's something.
I just think I think the controversy, and it's not a huge controversy. I've not seen like a lot of people bring it up, but I have seen just sort of pockets of it on the internet and just, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it's an interesting controversy because I don't feel like it's been so blown out that it's like a big loud noise, but at the same time, I think it's asking interesting questions. And
it is.
I think it's maybe there is some nuance there that I feel like if you are just going to like say, oh, this is sending this message, I don't think it is. I think this is a movie about a lot of flawed characters, and again, like there's no like resolution to like, you know, Peter Dinklage's character James, like he's like asking Mildred out on a date, and he eventually sort of lies for her to cover for the fact that she's the one who fired the threw the firebombs at the police station, which she does because she thought the police officers fired set the fire to the billboards.
The billboards. Yeah.
She thought they'd done that, so she was doing this, and we found out later it was actually the ex-husband who did that when he was drunk. Yeah. But he covers for her, and like the kind of like she's like, oh, just going on a date with me, and that can be. And he's not like actually coercing her into it. He's actually just like. It's almost the way he's flirting. He's like, hey, I've been wanting to go on a date with you. Why don't you do that? And that can be the thank you. That's fine. And they go on the date. And by the end of the date, he ends up having to storm out. And he's like, no, like, this is a joke to you. You feel embarrassed that you're here with me. And he throws his napkin down. And he leaves. And there's never, like, you know, I think at that point you maybe expect, oh, later on she'll go and apologise. Or there'll be some sort of redemptive scene. But there never is.
That's not what, yeah, exactly. That's not what this movie is. It's showing, no. Things aren't as simple as that. Life isn't neat. There are, you know, that doesn't always happen. People don't grow instantly. It takes time. Sure, you know, some of them are getting better than they were. Some of them are maybe in worse place than they were. But not to massive extent still. No one's dramatically changed over the course of the movie.
They're growing, but not necessarily in a healthy way. And, you know, like, you feel like Sam Rockwell's character's taking some lessons on here, and that's why he tries to help find the killer, because he's in the bar, and he overhears this conversation, this guy bragging about a crime that sounds a lot like the murder of the girl.
Yeah.
And it's worth mentioning as well, the guy who's bragging, we saw in one scene before this. Because once the billboards have been up for a while, this guy comes to the store that Mildred works at and, like, just kind of, like, creepily implies, oh, it could have been me. You know, and he kind of, like, makes this insinuation.
Yeah.
And then he says it's not, and he leaves. But it's a really creepy scene. It's a good scene just from a suspense point of view. It really works.
Yeah, and she's terrified. And
then we hear this in the scene, and it's like, okay, that lines up with what we heard earlier on, if it actually is him. And basically Sam Rockwell's, and I got this as he was doing it, these silly ideas to basically, he scratches the guy in the face
his nails,
to get his DNA, knowing that he's going to get the shit kicked out of him for doing it. And he takes the beating.
He doesn't go looking for this. He's not out there going, oh, I've got to solve this case. He's sitting there, and he hears it, and he's like, "This is a chance."
Yeah, it's a chance, but it's still flawed how he does it. Not because, and I mean, obviously there's some surface level stupidity of how he does this, right? It is, but it's still flawed because I feel like in his mind this is like his penance, taking these hits, like this is my punishment for who I've been.
Yeah, this is his way of going, I tortured someone,
but it's not enough.
I'm going to get beat up as well. No, it's not.
This is the thing, it's not enough at all. It's not about you getting punched because you punched someone else. There has to be more to it than that. And obviously a big thing about it as well is after the burning, because this is after he's been in the hospital for a bit, he put, you know, Welby in the hospital after they threw him out the window, which is a fantastic sequence. You know, it's basically after the Chief's killed himself, and people are kind of blaming the Billboards for pushing him over the edge, even though we know it's not, because he sends a letter to Mildred saying, "Yeah, I paid for the next month of the Billboards because I thought it'd be funny." Like, yeah. you'd have to hear people.
I love the Chief. He's got such a sick sense of humor. Because he's flawed, but he's a very genuine person. He's like, no. I'm trying, but there's nothing I can do here. We exhausted all our options. And that's just what happens sometimes. And, you know, and obviously Mildred gets very militant of going, yeah, well, we'll just put them all on a list.
Yeah. Yeah, because she starts like, oh, everyone should have their DNA taken at birth, and then you can check it.
I think she just says all the men.
Was it all the men specifically?
Yeah.
Either way, she's basically saying that, and he's like, there's some civil rights laws that maybe prohibit that in particular.
But that's the thing. She thinks they're not doing anything.
Oh, by the way, see when because this was quite early on in the movie when they had this conversation, and she said, "Oh, we should go and round up all the men in town and take all the DNA for anyone over the age of 8." See, at that point, I didn't know what age her daughter was, and did you think her daughter was much younger because of that line?
No,
I did, because why would you test a 9-year-old for this crime?
It's a good question.
Because when she said that, I'm like, oh hell, because I think at first I thought, oh, it's a teenager because she was raped. Right, I mean, obviously there's people that's sick out here who will go younger than that, but that was my assumption. But then she says over the age of 8, and I'm like, whoa, how young was she? Like,
you've got a point, but that never crossed my mind.
And then when we find out, you know, we get the flashback and we see what age she was, I'm like, okay, so why do you think a 9-year-old's involved in this?
I think this is just showing her being really extreme and over
yeah,
the top
I mean that's fair. Actually, that flashback. I liked the harsh language between the mother and the son. That was kind of amusing to me. Admittedly, I don't drop C-bombs with my mother, but like, you know,
you feel like you could get away with one, maybe.
Not a C-bomb, I don't think, but like, you know,
I could with mine.
I'll say shitty things back and forth to my mother, and it's just kind of a normal. It's the way we speak, right?
Yeah.
So that's like a very natural thing that you never see in movies, where, you know, they'll just say awful things to each other. What I didn't like about that flashback is I did think the final moment where she's fighting with her daughter, and she literally shouts out, "I hope you get raped." I thought that was just a little too specific.
Yeah, I didn't need that being, you know, her final words to her. I was like, no, it was fine. You had an argument. She stormed out. It was enough.
Honestly, I didn't even need the flashback. I mean, even though I enjoyed the rest of it, I don't think we actually needed the flashback to sell us. I get it. She's a grieving mother. Like, she's.
It happens. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't need that much. But what were we talking about before we sidetracked?
Willoughby being very genuine, you know. He's genuine, but he's got this sick sense of humor, like you say. You know, like he pays for the bubbles just because, shits and giggles. Yeah,
which is what leads to Sam Rockwell. He blames Welby for, you know, putting up the billboards. And he storms across, and we follow him from behind. The camera's behind him. We follow him across in the door, up the stairs.
Music's really ramping up.
Yeah, it's ramping up. He smashes the you know, it's a glass door, one of those front glass doors.
Gets his baton out and just smashes it.
Yeah, and he goes up and he punches him a couple of times. And you're like, okay, this is quite dark. And then he smashes the window upstairs as well. And you're like, what the hell's he doing? Oh shit! And he throws him out, and you actually see Welby roll off the sort of roof.
Yeah.
And go off the side, and then we go back downstairs with him
as he punches the assistant woman in the face on the way out.
It does, which again,
big palm into her nose.
Yeah, it's very
quick and ruthless, isn't it? It's very efficient.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
There's no passion in it in the way. Yeah, when he's beating up Red, there's passion in what he's doing. He's angry, but when he hits her, it's just like, you're in my way. Go away.
It's very sociopathic.
Yeah.
He just it's not at least to that. I mean, I know you're saying it's not angry, but it does kind of tie to that anger inside him, where he just thinks this is okay.
He definitely is. I mean, in the same way, he doesn't have the passion. He doesn't care who this is.
Yeah, it's not emotional.
This is just someone in the way.
But I think that's why it lends credence to the idea that he's got that anger in him at all times.
Yeah.
That's just base level.
Yeah.
And then you've got the passion of like him attacking him because he cares for his chief. But it's again, he's a messed up character. He is flawed. You're not really supposed to like him in any great sense of the word. No. By the end of the movie, all you have is this hope that maybe he can get better.
Yeah, maybe you start to like parts of him.
Yeah,
you like the idea of, okay, he can get better.
Yeah, well, which is why that's where I think the controversy kind of falls down for me. Is I don't think you're meant to really be rooting for him or see that he's redeemed himself by the end of the movie, because I think he's still messed up.
He's on the path to being redeemed, but early on the path.
Yeah, he's still a messed up character. He's still, as is Mildred. By the time Mildred's firebombing places,
the pair of them are going off to maybe dish out some vigilante justice.
Yeah, because this is the thing. So he gets the DNA. Freeman from the Wire's like, oh hey, you kind of did good, kid. And he looks into it. He's like, oh, but it can't be him. He's got an airtight alibi. He's like, well, what's the alibi? And he's like, oh, his commanding officer, told us where he was. And it's like, okay, he was out of the country.
He was out the country. It's classified, and he has a commanding officer.
Yeah, just think about that. Think about what we're saying.
He goes, do you need a clue? It was Sandy.
But this is the thing, and he like kind of puts this together. He's like, okay, so what he was bragging about was probably just something he did over there. He did something similar, and it's like, and he phones Mildred and he apologizes. He's like, hey, I'm sorry I got your hopes up. Because this is the thing, when they sit in that swing and he comes over, he tells her, oh, we might have the guy. This is the first time they've been in a scene together where they don't want to kill each other. It's kind of like the first non-hostile scene they have, and when he calls her again, he's like, oh, sorry I got your hopes up. It's like, well, it's the first day I've had hopes for a while. He's like, hey, he's maybe not your killer, but he is a killer. And he lives in Iowa. And she's like, it just so happens I was thinking about going to Iowa tomorrow. Like, you want some company? And of course they get in the car, and the final scene of the movie is them in the car, just leaving town, just driving out. And there is this kind of question, like, when they get there, will they go through with it?
Yeah, because they're kind of talking, they're like, are you sure about this? And they're like, no, not entirely. But here we are. And
I think for me, that's the importance, probably the most important scene in the movie, just to tell us what the movie's really about, if you're not getting it to that point. This is about the uncertainty of actually getting over things and getting through things.
Yeah.
Where both of them clearly cannot healthily move on from anything. Both of them can't do that.
Yeah, they're moving the obsession from the billboards to this man, essentially.
Yeah. And you like to think that they won't actually go through with it. This is just a coping thing. They'll get close and not do it. But then there is a factor that we've not considered here. Is that
do they encourage each other into it almost?
Well, I was going to say that. I mean, that's true. Yeah, they could encourage each other into it. Even though both of them are kind of lukewarm on it, but they kind of like ramp each other up. That's a possibility. Yeah. But the other thing is, though, is she's going to recognise him.
Yeah.
She's seen him in that scene earlier on. When she sees who that is, if she was hesitant, once she sees who it is and recognises the face, that would maybe push her over the edge.
It might, yeah.
And it's like, and I think it's it's another example of violence begets more violence.
Well, that's it. It's because they both know this man relished in what he's done. Obviously, he was bragging about it to his friend at the bar, but to her, he was just like, yeah, it could have been me. I could have done that. I bet I'd have enjoyed it. It's the idea of maybe they didn't do this now, but they like what they did do. Yeah.
So, no, it's definitely playing with extremely... Sick's maybe not the right word, but extremely damaged people.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of the thing. And you see it through both of them. And I think by the end of the movie, obviously you're still naturally on her side more than his, because she's not done as much as he has. Like, you've heard about him torturing people, you've seen him be homophobic, you've seen him do all these awful things. There's a moment in the movie where I thought he was going to kiss a guy. Like, it's when they're crying in the bathroom after finding out about the chief. Yeah. And the desk sergeant's just kind of holding him, and I'm like, what, are they a thing? Like, they're not, but the way that he was kind of holding him, it was kind of like, oh, like this is...
No, that's it. He plays into it for safety, because it's like, no, this is nice.
And you've got, like, just all the little bits to make up his character. He still lives with his mother, and he's very... like he still gets advice from her about things that about his job that he shouldn't be asking his mother for advice about.
Yeah, and she's like, "I'll phone up and I'll get you to get your job back." And he's like, "No, that's embarrassing, Mum. Stop that."
Yeah, he's definitely. They really play him as someone who's still like 12. He's not matured.
He's not matured yet. That's the point. That's why he's like this, because he doesn't know any better, and he's only just essentially going through adolescence. So, this letter from the chief is kind of like him getting a speech from his father.
Yeah,
going, okay, it's time to grow up.
And it's maybe the closest thing he has to a father figure. Because
I think it absolutely is. Yeah,
because his father's been gone since birth. Maybe.
Clearly a long time.
Yeah, we don't get anything of him, but it's clearly he's been gone for a while.
Yeah, it's clear the chief has been that role to him.
Yeah, but you get the sense that he's supposed to, he tries to live up to this image that his mother wants him to be, and he, obviously that's maybe why he's so closeted if he is gay. Like he's really,
she'd disown him for a start.
Yeah, and that's part of maybe the source of the anger is he's covering it up and he's taking out his frustration of not being who he is by being this way. And there's a lot of complex things going on. There's a lot of explanations as to why the character is the way he is.
And I think this is why I like this movie so much, because the characters are so complex. Like, it's really hard to just boil them down at anything. At any point in the movie, you go, "Oh, this is where they are now." Not really.
I think at the start of the movie you can do it, but then as the movie goes on, it develops them too much.
Sure, you can maybe do it for the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, at the start of the movie, Mildred's the victim mother. You sympathise with her. She's your hero. Dixon's the racist, homophobic cop who's an antagonist. Willoughby's not an antagonist, but he is a problem because he lets the system. He's the system. He lets these things happen because it works for the system.
Yes, but he is kind of a good guy.
Yeah.
Like, even in those early scenes where it's clear that he's letting this go on, he's still coming across as a reasonable man compared to, say, Dixon.
But by the time we get to him killing himself, it's like, no, like he's taking this option out, and even though we understand why he's doing it, like, you can't necessarily look at him as just a completely rational, sane human being at this point in the movie.
Of course not.
Like he's past that. Everyone is flawed, and again, going back to that whole, if we got rid of all the racist cops, then we'd only be left with like 3 guys who are all homophobic. Like the fact that he thinks that's okay, and
do you know what? That's the thing. I don't know if he does think that's okay, but he's like, "This is the best I've got. This is what I'm working with, because this is what everyone here is like." To him, I don't know if that's how he sees it.
Well, he may not be necessarily okay with it, but I don't want to say that he definitely has that, what you just said, that frame of reference, that frame of mind, mainly because he also uses a lot of language throughout the movie that implies that he doesn't refer to them as gay people, he uses another word, and so on. Like it's very consistent the way
the way he does it, though. It's all very much, no, this is the culture in the area. This is just the way it is, and not obviously that's not right, but to him that's a normal. And then Dixon is too far.
Yeah.
Even by his standards, he's like, no. He is too far. He's aware of that.
I mean, the movie in a lot of ways is kind of an exploration of a place like this with all these characters, and it's kind of like, okay, this is why a lot of these people are like this. Like, how is there room for growth in here? And if it can happen, how slow is it going to be? And how you've got all these elements that are going on. Yeah, so there's a lot of things going on. Mildred's friend, actually, who works at the store with her. Did you recognise her?
Vaguely. Couldn't tell you who
she was. The mayor in season 1 of Leftovers.
Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah, so she was her. So yeah, just a small role there. But she at one point she gets arrested because they can't arrest Mildred directly, so they bust her.
Go after her friends. Yeah.
And that's a whole thing, and they do a lot of things to try and get her to take the boards down, kind of various harassment things.
But one of my favourite scenes personally is, again, showing that the characters are complex. It's when they've arrested Mildred, and they've got her in the interrogation room. She's riling up Dixon, and Willoughby comes in, and they're kind of giving each other shit for a few minutes, and it's all very taunting each other, and then he starts coughing up blood. And she instantly switches. She's like, "Oh, that's not important." She's like, "All right, let's go get help. Are you all right?"
Yeah. That's a very good point. And she instantly changes to
she gets so soft immediately.
And she starts shouting for help. Yeah, she doesn't glee in his pain. She doesn't do that. it's worth mentioning why she's there. Of course, she put the dentist drill in the thumb of her dentist because the dentist.
Oh yeah.
just as he was going into the teeth with the drill was like, I believe in Chief Willoughby, and because up until this point in the movie,
he wanted to go in without any anaesthetic.
Yeah, she had to talk him into it. And she's like, yeah, can I get some anesthesia, maybe? Just,
Yeah. This is why I don't like dentists.
But so up until that point, up until his suicide, the town sees it as her versus him, and then things change, and everyone kind of like turns on her a bit more than what maybe they had before, because like it paints her as this like antagonist to the town.
The idea that because she called him out by name, they kind of think, well, okay, that's the end of that. She won, basically, is the way they see it. So she won, so she becomes vilified because of it.
Yeah. So no, it's playing with a lot of things. And even the fact that even earlier on in the movie, that some people are against her billboards, even though
they're on her side, like the priest. Yeah.
Oh, the priest. Oh, that's a fantastic scene. Where she just like tells him to basically go F himself, but in a very long, drawn out scene. Talks about altar boys and what priests might get up to with them. There's a lot of really dark stuff she brings up to this priest, and then says finish your coffee and get out of my kitchen, and then her son just sitting there goes, well thanks for coming, Father.
Yeah.
Just goes it on. Yeah. So it has a lot of these dark things, but it makes these light moments out of it with the ending moments, and it has, and I think ultimately what that does to the movies though is it makes it feel more genuine and realistic, because the characters do have humor in dark moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess we should rate the movie.
Yeah, we can do this. We usually do that.
But go on then, out of 10.
I'm just glancing at because I already wrote this down. Just glancing to see if I've changed my mind. No, I'm sticking with that. 8.5.
I think I'll agree with that and go with 8.5. I was dancing between that and an 8. I think it doesn't get to the 9. It doesn't get to the 9 because it is purely just about the characters. There's no. How do I phrase this?
I'm just waiting to see.
Why don't you give it a 9 then? You can go first.
But simple. My rating system translates to words. 8 is great. 9 is amazing. 10 is masterpiece. I think this is a really great movie, but it's not. Oh, this is amazing. It didn't make me come out and go, oh my god, that was fantastic.
I guess what I'm trying to say, this is a really good vehicle for the actors to bring it their all and really show things off.
Yeah.
Like a lot of Oscar potential movies tend to be. They tend to be like these vehicles for the characters, and the plot is just kind of it's there to facilitate that.
Yeah, like I think I said in the spoiler-free section, this is driven by the characters' choices.
Yeah.
It's the plot is just there. Everything that happens because of what they do.
It could go up in the future with more watches. It could go down in the future with more watches. I need to see how it maintains over time. But it sits there for me because it's really good at its themes and its characters, and that's it. And that's fine. That's enough to make a great movie, clearly. But it never does the last little above and beyond to go.
That's it. On my just saying, oh, this is a great movie, almost feels like it's a disservice to it. But I didn't come out of it and go, that was amazing. So it's kind of okay. That goes in the middle. That's 8.5, not the 9, not the 8.
Yeah, and because typically what I'll come out of a lot of the Oscar movies every year is that there'll be one or two that I do remember fondly, and I'll go back to. A lot of them I'll come out of going, that was good, with really good performances, but ultimately in a year's time I'm not going to remember any of them. I don't think this falls into that category, but I think
this is more memorable than a lot of the others that we'll talk about.
I might turn this into a why the Oscar Best Picture winners aren't necessarily.
No, we'll get into that on the news next week.
Yeah, actually, my favourite thing about that, though, just to sort of close that conversation off, is a couple of years ago Spielberg was presenting Best Picture, and when he came out and he was introduced to it, he says, "Oh, the winners will join these films in history," and he listed 7 or 8 Best Picture winners, and he said, "But don't worry, because the other 9 will join these films that were nominated and never won, and he listed about 7 or 8 of those films, and the list for the nominated ones that didn't win sounded way better than the ones that actually won. And I'm like, well, you just summed up Best Picture for me, Spielberg. So thanks, Spieley.
That's how I feel about last year.
What won last year? I can't remember.
Moonlight.
Ah, yeah.
Because it had the whole debacle.
Yeah, I started to see Moonlight. I do want to see Moonlight. But so that's Three Billboards. It is a really good vehicle for all of its actors to act their asses off, with good humour, whilst also dealing with a lot of serious themes with a lot of flawed characters. Yeah,
I think it impresses me how it never feels uncomfortable, even though it's dealing with all these subjects.
Yeah, very easily.
I never felt uncomfortable in my seat when I was watching this. It was it just kind of rolls in.
I think that's if nothing else, Martin McDonagh, who directed it, I think that shows he's a master of tone. He knows how to control the tone of the scenes, no matter what it is, which is very impressive, because I feel like there's a lot of this that could have very quickly became uncomfortable. When Dinklage confronts her about being embarrassed at the dinner table, that could have been uncomfortable. Anytime Dixon gets racist or homophobic, that should be uncomfortable. I mean, a lot of directors will go for uncomfort because they want you to feel uncomfortable in those scenes. This was a different tact, where it was like it just played it differently.
Yeah, I think the only time I felt really uncomfortable is when he's beating up Bread. And that's like, no, this is the moment he snaps. This is the worst it gets.
There's two scenes, because I would also say the scene with the creepy guy in the shop is uncomfortable, intentionally. Yeah. That's suspenseful. You're meant to feel you're meant to feel that she's in danger in that scene.
And I also appreciate that's the outer towner is the uncomfortable. Like, despite all their flaws, it's kind of safe in the hometown.
I wouldn't use safe as the right word.
Okay. Not safe, but when I say because we're not feeling that uncomfortable, they're not feeling uncomfortable around each other a lot of the time. They're very open, they're kind of taunting each other back and forth.
They're used to the world they're around. They know their community. That's what you'd say. I wouldn't say they're safe, because Dixon might start throwing punches at any point.
Safe was maybe a poor choice, but the outer towner, that's where this is different.
Yeah, but no, I like that scene as well, just because it's like the consequences of her putting the billboards up are really coming to show themselves now. Because this was why it was maybe a bad idea. You've basically advertised yourself for whoever did this to maybe show up and do something, or other people who hate that you've done this.
She thinks keeping this in the public eye is a good thing, but clearly there are consequences to it as well by making this more national news as opposed to the local story that it was.
Yeah, so again, it's escalation. Things keep escalating for the characters, and it's definitely Mildred and Dixon's story. Those two are the characters that we're really kind of following and getting to know throughout the thing. Sorry, that is Three Billboards. So by all means, let us know what you think of the film in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. There'll be a link to that in the description. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you very much once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching movies, and we'll see you next time.